Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to share with you Ark's best speed tames, excluding the galley and excluding creatures which really aren't worth it. But make sure to subscribe and let's get into it. In at number 10 is the Pteranodon. Now the Pteranodon is an essential tame really that can be tamed very early on in your stages of Ark progress. And it is an extremely useful creature and one of Ark's fastest flyers. And considering how accessible this is a great tame to have for actually getting around the map quickly. Yes, an RG is a much better flyer overall, but in terms of speed, the Pteranodon is definitely winning in all of those boxes. Sadly, it doesn't really have the stamina to keep up with the speed, but if you do level it up and then you level some weight up as well, this can be a very good travel mount even into your later stages of Ark playing, as there are barely any other creatures, especially on maps like the island, that actually fly faster than this thing. And again, this thing is just one of the most easy creatures to tame. You simply just go up to it, bowler it, and then club it, or you could trank it if you want, or use the slingshot if you prefer that as well. It is by far one of the easiest tames. The only real difficulty is getting the chitin and keratin for the saddle, but overall that isn't really too bad if you find some bugs around. And the Pteranodon is just extremely useful for traveling around at great speeds, and it is great in PvP scenarios as well, as it is a great raiding creature thanks to its spin attack, which can just quickly kill everything inside a base. It's really good, and it is definitely worth taming at some point. In at number 9 is the Griffin. Now the Griffin is an extremely fast tame that can be found on Ark Ragnarok, and it is significantly better than the Pteranodon in many ways. Firstly, this thing is significantly faster than the Pteranodon in speed, and also you can equip weapons on this thing, which means taming Quetzals back in the day was so much easier on the Griffin, but you wouldn't use the Pteranodon to tame a Quetzal anyway. And they have their gliding ability with much boosted damage, stamina and weight. And also these things are accessible to every Ark player, as these things spawn on free Ark DLC. But Valguero is probably the way to go, as you can go to the Griffin trenches, where yes, you don't need to steal an egg, you simply just need to knock out a Griffin and then tame said Griffin. It will be really easy and really quick. These things aren't too difficult to tame, and they have a wealth of uses for every Ark player out there. Like I said, these things deal a wealth of damage, and also their bombing ability, where they can dive bomb. You can dive bomb into creatures as well, causing those creatures even more damage. And they are great for raiding wyvern trenches as well, as you can quickly go in, swoop in to get that egg and get out. The wyverns will simply not catch up with you. In at number 8 is the Gasbags. Now this thing would be significantly easier to tame if I could actually control this thing properly. But overall, I am not the best controller of the Gasbags, but this is still a really fast creature that can zip across the map. And it doesn't really seem like it with its big stocky build and just general fatness. But this thing really is insane when you take it into the air. Again, if you do know how to actually control this thing. Also, the Gasbags is really great if you are on a 2-player team. You don't even need a saddle to ride this thing, which has a really good benefit apart from the loss of armor. But when you do put a saddle on it, a second player can help join you, gathering all of that metal and just traversing across the map wherever you want to go, which makes this sort of a communal bus that you and your friend can travel around on, and it is much safer than traveling around on an RG or a Pteranodon when you're being carried by the person riding it, as they could accidentally drop you. Whereas when you're on the saddle of this, it is your own fault if you press the dreaded dismount key. In at number 7 is the Snow Owl. Yet another creature started from extinction, and yes, you may say the Managama should be on this list too, and largely I would agree with you there, but the Gallimimus and the Managama aren't going to make it onto this list, as I don't really find them very practical. And you may disagree with me there, and if you do, put the Managama in this spot, or you could put it higher up. I'm happy to hear your comments and suggestions down below. Either way, the Snow Owl is a great creature, very easy to tame, that is great for actually getting loot out of gachas, but it is also great at traveling the map at insane speeds. This thing really does zip across the map really fast, and it has that glide ability that it has with the Griffin. Except this glide ability just feels so so much smoother than what the Griffin has, and I always find myself traversing maps faster with the Snow Owl than the Griffin. It also has more abilities than the Griffin. This thing can seek out any PvP or any just PvE players in general. It can seek out any organism on the Ark map, and it is really great if someone is trying to raid your base and you've simply lost them. Also, make sure to level up that stamina, as these things have a healing ability, which the more stamina you level up, you will be able to get that healing going for longer. But really, just do take into mind that this will heal every creature in the healing vicinity. Just really do take that into mind, as you may only want to heal your creatures in the situation that you might be healing your creatures in. In at number 6 is the Deinonychus. Now this creature really does have insane speed, and it can zip across the map, but on top of that, this thing has really good practicality as well, which makes this thing an extremely useful creature for all of those Ark chores that you have to do. But with its damage and all of its wealth of abilities, this thing is great for doing bosses as well, especially because they can latch onto them and deal that all famous bleed ability, which is seriously overpowered, and I don't get why Ark hasn't nerfed it yet. But either way, I am not complaining about that at all, as these things deal an insane amount of damage, and it is really worth getting some of these things to do some bosses at some point and see how you like using one, and then make up your mind on if you want to use one into the future, as I still do a lot of bosses nowadays with the Deinonychus. But this thing is also a great travel mount and is insanely fast because of it. This thing can zip across the map with really quick speeds, and also doesn't take full damage, which is a really nice bonus. Also, on top of that, it can scale walls of the Ark map, which makes this thing extremely useful for traveling around, as no matter what surface you're traversing, this thing can simply get up it with absolute ease. In at number 5 is the Shadowmane. Now this creature is a very recent addition to Ark, but by far one of the fastest, most practical creatures in the Ark game. This thing has a wealth of abilities like the hydration buff, which will boost its damage. It obviously has its mate boost, it has its alpha pack buff, and it also can turn invisible as well, which makes this thing just extremely useful in so many ways, as it just has so many abilities. But also this thing can jump really high, and you would think for a land creature, how can this thing scale heights that big? And when you're on a flyer, the Shadowmane is still a big threat to you, as it can simply dash up into the air and grab you and pull you back down, which can be a really good ability for PvP. Also, these things are really fast, quick and snappy in the water as well, which means these things are even more useful, because then no matter what landscape you're traversing, these things can traverse it with absolute ease, with no questions asked at all. I really urge you, if you can, at some point, really get a Shadowmane. In at number 4 is the Astrodelphis. Now this is also another Gen 2 creature, and you'll see a reoccurrence of Gen 2 creatures as we go further along this list towards that number 1 spot. The Astrodelphis really is a creature of speed, but also of great skill too, as it does take a while to be really efficient with all of those acrobatics, and also just keeping you going exactly where you want to go, and also aiming the lasers that it fires can be of difficulty as well, but those things are definitely not out of reach for the general Ark player. If you spend even a couple of hours practicing with this thing, you will definitely get up to shape very quickly. This isn't too hard of a creature to actually get mildly good at controlling. And as you can see here, this thing has been zipping across the map that is Crystal Isles, and you can see how quickly this thing just traverses through any map. This is by far one of the fastest flyers. It kind of goes hand in hand with the Tropio, so you could put that here as well, but the Tropio is not on this list. But if it was, I'd probably put it where the Astrodelphis is. They are pretty interchangeable in terms of flyers, except the Tropio is going to be burning gasoline, and these things are burning element, which in old Ark terms is a lot more expensive, but now with Genesis Part 2, element really isn't all too hard to get. In at number 3 is the Rock Drake. Now this thing is an extremely fast mount that is extremely useful on maps like Arboration, but sadly this thing isn't viable on every Ark map. Just sometimes Ark maps are too flat for their gliding abilities to come into full effect. But if you were a much better Rock Drake glider than me, then you could probably do significantly better than I am showing here. It definitely does look just a bit dry and not even really a fast creature. But trust me, once you get this thing into a proper rhythm and you're in a proper map suited for this creature, for example Arboration, or the Floating Islands biome on Crystal Isles, which is where I recorded some B-roll for a creature later on the list, you will have a whale of a time, going insanely quickly across the map. And if you can't quite reach a surface in time, that's fine, as you can simply dash towards it by clicking towards it as long as the cursor is showed, as that will show that you are in the range to actually grip onto that surface and keep going with your travels. Largely, the stamina on the Rock Drake is really good, as you'll hardly find yourself running out of it, especially if you invest in a really good level from the get-go. These things are a great shout if you do want to tame them, but just remember, do be prepared, as losing all your stuff right down there in the purple and red zones of Arboration really is not the way that you want to go. In at number 2 is the Bloodstalker. This is a Genesis Part 1 creature, not a Genesis Part 2 creature, but again, this thing is extremely fast and extremely practical. Firstly, this thing can glide across the water with absolute ease, which means water is no longer a place where you have to simply swim or fly across. Now you can just skim over the surface, and it really does add a lot more solutions into that traveling environment. But also, these things are great under the water as well, and are by far some of the best creatures to use in the underwater biomes of Genesis Part 1. Yes, obviously you have Moses and things like that, which you'll use for the Moda boss on the map, which is the ocean boss. But in terms of just traversing that general ocean, I would always use a Bloodstalker, as they're just so quick and snappy to use, and they aren't really that big and they don't get in the way of anything. The Bloodstalker, as you can see here, sort of acts like Spider-Man would, shooting webs everywhere and then swinging onto them and gripping and going around the map really quickly. And yes, I'm not the best Bloodstalker flyer out there, but I have really seen some good ones, and it really does benefit to learn how to fly a Bloodstalker properly, if you can even call it flying, as you will really benefit from it, especially in just terms of general travel, but also in terms of getting hexagons, as loads and loads of missions require those hexagons. So it is a skill that I definitely urge you to practice at some point, as long as you do have access to the wonderful creature that is the Bloodstalker. And finally, in at number 1 is the Maewing. This creature is by far the fastest tame on Ark that, in my opinion, has a practical use. And yes, I'm going to get a lot of disagreement there with the Managama, but really, I just don't use the Managama. I'm not great at flying it. It's a bit finicky for me, but I can see why you'd put the Managama in the number 1 spot, and I will agree with you there on your opinions. But in terms of my opinions, I think the Maewing deserves to be in the number 1 spot. This thing is a really fast glider that actually I've spent some time practicing when Genesis 2 came out. Obviously, I haven't done too much as of late, but I still think I'm a very reasonably good flyer of the Maewing. Obviously, I'm not going to be the best out there, but I have done the Alpha Maewing race mission, so I can't be that bad. And that is another reason to get good at the Maewing, as again, like the Bloodstalker, this thing will get you some hexagons if you do those racing missions. And it's just a really good skill to learn as well, as the Maewing is a really good creature for traversing any map, really. If it's flat or not flat, I don't really have too much of a trouble, unless it's a map like Scorched Earth, where there's like basically flatness for so large areas. Otherwise, this thing is fab. The top 10 best Ark Transporters. In at number 10, I've decided to put the Gasbags, as I really do like this as a creature concept, especially when it comes to all things transporting. This does have a lot going for it in that sort of niche, let's say. It is a reasonably fast and effective creature for getting around the map with some serious speed, and it has a lot of heft to it when it comes to weight, and that is a key part of transporters. And obviously the speed does apply quite well too, but this has sort of the best of both worlds. The only reason why it's not particularly high on the list is they can be an absolute pain to tame with them glitching all over the place, and on top of that as well, they can take a little bit of getting used to in terms of flying these things for the first time. I definitely didn't have the best time on recording this B-roll, because it was a couple months back when I really didn't fly these things a lot. I think it was a good 6 months back actually when I recorded this. At some point I'll redo this and probably show off some better Gasbag flying skills. That's definitely something to consider though. You can bring a friend along with you. which, you know, it makes it nicer. They've just got tons of weight though. You'll have no trouble transporting metal and goods like that around the map with these things. Next up, I've decided to put the Pteranodon, as this is just one of those creatures where it's like, you really can't get away with not having one of these to a degree. Yes, it is just really unlocked early on, and that is a great use for it as a early game transporter. This had it was unlocked at level 38, but soon after you do get things which are a lot better, which is why I am going to knock this creature back a little bit. That is why I've knocked this creature back a little bit, but it still does have a lot of merit in transportation, not only from you, but it can get some things around too, like some other players and some resources if you're careful about the weight, which isn't really that great on this thing. It's so much more spread across Ark maps than the Gasbags that I find it simply has to be a better transporter. It's got more access and you unlock it way earlier on. Its tame method is way simpler, simply just a bowl and some tranks. So it's another good transporter, but maybe look for something else if you're at a higher level. Next up, I've decided to put the Snow Owl, and this is one of those creatures where it has the gliding ability. It's very easy to tame. It spawns on Fjorda as well as Extinction, so don't get too miffed about the map. Not sure about the Gasbags actually, but I think that might have a Fjorda appearance somewhere along the lines. But yeah, this is mainly an Extinction creature. I usually tame it on Extinction, but you can do it on Fjorda too. It has the gliding ability, which really does just boost it as a transporter. It adds just so much speed and agility to this creature. Although it can't dive bomb attack like the Griffin, which is later on in today's list, it still can do quite a lot when it comes to traveling quickly. It may not seem like a very fast flyer just going around normally. It's only slightly faster than RG, at least from just observations that I've done. When you do this, it is just such a great flyer and transporter just for all goods. Its weight is very decent too, so is its stamina, and it's got loads of other wide uses too, like this sort of UV, I mean, no, it'll be no, it won't be UV because wrong ray. I'm thinking infrared. There we go. That's heat. UV is that's too high on the electromagnetic spectrum. Sorry, not physics lesson we want here. Either way, back to Ark. Talking about stamina too, they've got tons of it, and that is great, especially for healing up creatures, because the more stamina they have, the longer they can heal for. Their pellets are also great with gachas, and that is just something which I really like about these creatures, and I really like them as a whole. Great transporters, easy to tame, and got some other uses along with them too. In at number 7, I've decided to put the Desmodus. This is one of those creatures where it spawns on Fjorda, and there's a lot going for it other than its transporting abilities, like Sanguine Elixir and the Bloodbag Farms. Just absolutely fantastic ability to have. But again, it has that gliding ability like the Snow Owl. It may not appear to be the fastest flyer right off the bat, although definitely faster than the Snow Owl in general flying. That glide sort of dive bomb thing, which the Griffin also has, again, we will get onto that later. It really does make this thing an even better flyer, but it has a lot of agility and mobility in some other areas too, like the fact that it can grapple onto any kind of wall or vertical surface with absolute ease, even ceilings actually. Just make sure not to press space after you do this, I mean E, not space, because you will fall off your mount, and I'm sure someone's done it before. Just don't make that mistake. Continuing on, I've decided to put the Bloodstalker, as this is my all-time favourite underwater travelling mount as a whole. I love it for all of its underwater travelling needs. At least from my perspective, it really does excel in this aspect. It is a truly remarkable tame for everything like that, but also on the surface too, it really is a great one. But let's talk about why it's so good in the water first. Firstly, actually, not to do with the water, it can glide along the top of the water, and although it's not going to be in the water at the time, it can offer some quick escapes at points where you may need it most. You can also see all the aggros of the creatures around you in low visibility environments such as the ocean. This is going to be an extremely helpful one, at least it is for me. I'm not blind or anything, but you know, it just helps to know if the creatures are actually aggroed onto you or they're just being, you know, as they are, just sort of NPC things just wandering around and giving you no business or attention whatsoever. But then as soon as you hop out of the water, which is extremely mobile and diverse, and you've got all of that extremely mobile, diverse mobility on land as well, and that is going to hugely benefit it as a creature, and I really love all of its mobility. It deals a reasonable amount of damage too, which people don't give it enough credit for. You are essentially just Ark's version of Spider-Man, and that is also just really cool. In at number 5, I've decided to put the Astrodelphis and the Tropicognathus as a little mention here as well, as I really do love these two creatures as transporters. They can get a lot of goods from A to B, especially considering their ridiculously fast speed. The only thing that really does hold them back is fuel is required for this to actually work, and they can be a little bit of a pain to tame. Yes, the both of them. The Astrodelphis, I would say, is maybe slightly harder, definitely more expensive, and the saddle is something which you're going to be spending a lot more time getting up to, but you know, it's still not really the end of the world with a creature like this. You can get quite a significant amount done in terms of, you know, traveling around, and also you can get quite a significant amount done in terms of taming these things, especially on Gen 2, as element is like absolutely everywhere. You can get tons of it in the space biome, you'll have no issues whatsoever. So on that map, they're relatively cheap. I think you can get them on Field as well. They definitely do suit the map nicely. I like them for all of that. They are really great creatures, they're really fast. Just be careful about those requirements, because that's probably the only thing that's really going to be holding you back when using a creature like this one. Now in number 4, I've decided to put the Griffin. Maybe you want to see it higher, but for me this is where I put it in terms of transporters. It has the dive bomb ability, which can deal tons of damage, sort of as it suggests in a way, but that really does attribute it to being quite a nice flyer. This isn't its default speed, by the way. It's been sped up quite a lot here, as I had this really insanely movement speed cranked Griffin, because yes, I use speed levels, I'm that kind of person, and I really love a fast Griffin. It can get a lot done for me, but even at basic speeds, with that dive bomb, you just get an insane amount of acceleration. It actually really is absurd what you're getting of a creature like this, and in just general PvP terms, they are great PvP creatures. But for PvE use as well, they're one which many players do attribute to some of the best. They are truly great in my opinion. Also for doing wyvern trench runs, you're going to have no issues with using something like this. For dealing damage, you're going to have no issues with using something like this, and for transporting goods around the map, considering their great weight and general overall stamina and speed, you're going to have no issues with that whatsoever. In at number 3, I've decided to put the Argent, as I find it's just been in the game for a while. Okay, maybe you think the Griffin is a better transporter, but when it comes to things like metal, crystal and obsidian, little can beat the RG. It has been in the game for so long, and it has been carrying it ever since its release. While maybe there's some other creatures, and obviously evidently better creatures for transportation than the RG, considering the creatures which are higher on the list, it's only making the number 3 spot. Still very good. I think this is where it really does need to be, for the fact of how much is just done over all of Ark, and the fact you get 50% weight reduction on things like metal, crystal and obsidian. It's still an insane thing to me. Yes, I might be still a little bit stuck in the primitive age, but I think it really does deserve a lot more than it's getting these days. I love the RG for all that it offers. Its saddle acts as a portable smithy. You've got a nice regen buff. It can pick up tons of creatures and transport them around the map with genuine ease. You're going to find no issue with using this creature as a transporter. While it may not be the fastest out there, that isn't what it needs to be a good transporter. It can carry hefty loads with absolute ease, and you can get around the place, maybe not in the most timely fashion, but you'll get there safely and reasonably efficiently with a lot of stuff with you. In number 2, I was really thinking about this one, but I'm going to put the Rhino here because it is a very fast, effective flyer, obviously spawning on the island and the Lost Island, but the fact that it can pick up so many kinds of creatures really does make it such a great transporter in my opinion, and this is why it really does take the cake for me in the number 2 spot. I was thinking put the RG a little bit higher, but I think considering this thing can pick up Rexes, Diplos and Paraceratheriums, it really does just deserve to be here for a great Ark transporter, because at the end of the day, if you can pick up creatures like that, it has to be one of the greats. And yes, cryos exist, and obviously soul traps if you use that mod as well. I do, because cryos frankly are just way more annoying than the soul traps mod. Comment down below if you use that mod as well, by the way. I'd like to know how many other people out there are using said soul traps mod. But yeah, considering it can pick up that wide range of creatures, I think it is extremely deserving of the spot. It is a very fast travel mount too. It is capable of gaining significant speed on it, and it deals quite a hefty amount of damage too. Great for PvP and PvE uses. Its tame method is just exactly the same as the Reaper's really. I won't go into it in this video because it could be a little bit of a drag. Let's get into the creature in at the number 1 spot. And finally, in number 1, I've decided to put the Maewing, as I really do like this as a general creature in its concept, but also really, is it beaten when it comes to general travel mounts? The Maewing has just such an insane amount of speed to it. I think it really is unbeaten when it comes to transporters. Maybe it doesn't have the highest weight out there, but it can transport any kind of baby of any size along with it, which is something which can't be said about the Rhinognatha. It can about the Gigantoraptor, but that is not making the list today. I think all the creatures here do definitely succeed that in terms of transporting ability. So you can do all of that, but you can still get quite a lot around with you with like relative ease and across a very long distance in a very short amount of time, because again, Maewings are really the kings of travel when it comes to it. On flat terrain, they are absolute beasts at it. Maybe not going very vertical, but still a lot can be done with these things. They also act as a portal feeding trough. They're pretty good swimmers, and they can gather berries. There's so much going for these things, but in my opinion, they take the cake for the best travel mounts in Ark, and I don't really think anytime soon that is going to be changing. So thank you to my wonderful patrons Ekaterina Puchkova, Karina Thorne, Dominic Masijewski and Ethan Tapia, who have all supported me through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. If you want to join this list, then go join Patreon or YouTube members, but thanks to all of these guys.